CFC story began in 1973 when a young evangelist from Florida named Lonnie Langston began holding tent meetings in Brier Hill, New York. In 1974, Lonnie moved the meetings to a rented building just outside of Ogdensburg on Route 68. The building was originally constructed to be a chicken coop. Lonnie left the North Country in 1977, but not before installing Tom Wells, a native of Ogdensburg, to be the new pastor. He also incorporated the church with the name Christian Fellowship Centers, plural, of New York, indicating his original vision for more than one church. Within a couple of years, the congregation purchased land and erected a permanent building on what is now Route 310, just outside of Madrid, in a location that was considered to be central to the homes of the elders at the time. Around 1981, Rick Sinclair was brought onto the pastoral staff under Tom Wells, and in spring of 1982, Tom Wells set in Rick Sinclair as main pastor over the Madrid congregation, while Tom Wells moved to Messina to start a new church plant there, made up largely of congregational members from the Madrid church who had been attending from the Messina and surrounding areas. Later, the Messina church itself started a new church plant in the city of Cornwall, Ontario, because of the large number of people coming across the border from Canada to attend the Messina church. In 1985, regular church services began in a new church plant in Ogdensburg, with Pastor Rick Sinclair performing the services both in the church in Madrid and the new church plant in Ogdensburg, until later, when two elders were brought up from the Rochester area to oversee the pastoral duties in the new Ogdensburg church. It was during this time that the church in Madrid was frequently spoken of prophetically as the hub of a wheel, with spokes going out to new church plants and the surrounding communities. By 1988, the church in Madrid had grown to a size where more congregational space and more support space was needed, so a 3-year capital stewardship campaign was begun to collect money that would fund the new building addition. Another spoke in the wheel was added in 1992 when Ford Reynolds, a longtime elder at the Madrid church, was set in as pastor of a new church plant in Richville. A small building on School Street in Richville was purchased to house the congregation. In 1994, Mike Tomford was added to the pastoral staff, having recently graduated from the Rhema Bible Training Center. Pastor Mike and his wife Judy had attended CFC as college students a decade before coming on pastoral staff. In 1995, the building addition in Madrid was complete. It featured a carpet colored deeply red. It was known as the Red Carpet Church. It was still attached to the original building, and the original building was used for support space and fondly remembered as the Blue Carpet Church. Another spoke in the wheel was added in 1996 when regular church services were held in Moira in the evening. Pastor Rick Sinclair oversaw the church services in Moira as well as the church services in Madrid. On January 20th, 2001, in the middle of a frigidly cold night, the Red Carpet Church addition and the original Blue Carpet Church completely burned to the ground in a fire. By the end of 2001, the Madrid congregation had purchased and moved into the old Madrid Elementary School building, complete with a gym and land and a stage and office space and classrooms to house the growing CFA Homeschooling Friday Enrichment program. In 2005, Daniel Paladin moved to the Madrid area and was added to the pastoral staff of the Madrid Church. In 2007, the Madrid Church began holding outreach meetings at 57 Market Street in Potsdam, primarily for the college outreach ministry. Around this time, the congregation of the Madrid Church, together with the students from the surrounding campuses, had almost completely filled the sanctuary size in the Madrid Gymnasium. Talk had begun about a building addition or a second service at the Madrid location. In 2009, Pastor Mike Tomford of the Madrid Church was set in as pastor of the Richville Church to replace retiring pastor Ford Reynolds. Pastor Mike, along with about 25 members of the Madrid Church, began attending services in Richville. temporarily relieving the pressure of the space limitations of the Madrid church. Over the next 2 years, the size of the congregation of the Madrid church continued to grow. A decision was made to go to 2 church services, with a location of the second service to be in Potsdam, closer to the college campuses. The starting time of the 2 services would be staggered, so that the preaching could be shared between the 2 service locations. In 2011, prior to the launch of the 2 services, Ben Lewandowski moved his family to the Madrid area and was added to the pastoral staff of the Madrid church. In the fall of 2011, the Madrid church began holding its second service in Potsdam, in a building purchased from the Catholic Church called the Newman Center, which had been vacant for a number of years. The members of the congregation of the Madrid church were free to choose which of the 2 church locations they preferred to attend. As a result, and quite organically, the 2 church congregations ended up being about the same size. Because of the smaller size of the Potsdam congregational area and its proximity to the college campuses, it wasn't long before Potsdam itself had to go to 2 church services. The times of the services were staggered with the Madrid church, so the same preaching could be done at first Potsdam, then Madrid, then Potsdam again. Pastor Rick Sinclair was the main pastor of the 2 church services. Pastor Ben Lewandowski was the site pastor at the Madrid church, and Pastor Daniel Paladin was the site pastor at the Potsdam church. By 2012, the congregation of the Grace Community Church in Moira was outgrowing the modular building used for its services. The main service at the time was held in the evenings, and the congregation made plans to build an addition onto the far end of the modular building. By spring of 2013, the addition was complete, and the services, which were still held in the evenings, were held in the larger church building addition. Also in the fall of 2012, Pastor Jesse Brooks from a church in Plattsburgh reached out to Pastor Rick Sinclair for input concerning his church. Over the next couple of years, the relationship between the 2 pastors strengthened. Until now, Pastor Jesse looks to Pastor Rick for regular input and counsel. By 2014, the congregation in the Richville church was also outgrowing its small building, so plans were made to look for a larger building or to go to 2 church services. The decision was made to go to 2 church services, and in August of 2014, a church building and rectory were purchased on Smith Street in Gouverneur. In February of 2015, the Richville church began holding its second service in the Gouverneur building, with Pastor Mike Tomford, the main pastor, over both church locations. As with the Madrid and Potsdam churches, the church starting time was staggered so that the churches could share resources between the 2 locations. Bob Dale moved his family to Gouverneur in the spring of 2014 and was added to the ministry staff to assist Pastor Mike with the 2 church services. Prior to that, Bob and his family had served as long-term missionaries in Turkey and were in the process of reestablishing their residence in northern New York. In the spring of 2016, Justice Martin was set in as the main pastor of the Grace Community Church in Moira, and the church service time went from an evening service to a more traditional starting time on Sunday mornings. Also in May of 2016, Canton started holding church services in a building rented from the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Court Street, with Jamie Sinclair set in as the main pastor. Congregation members originally consist of community members who had been attending other Christian Fellowship Center locations, as well as new community members and from the nearby universities. Around this time, Pastor Rick changed from preaching regularly in any one church and began to serve in a more apostolic translocal role, releasing regular preaching and pastoral responsibilities to the various site pastors. Pastor Daniel Paladin moved his family from the Madrid area to the Potsdam area, and Pastor Jamie Sinclair moved from Potsdam to the Canton area. Both moves were so that the pastors would be closer to the congregations which they pastored. Later in 2016, the Richville and Gouverneur churches began talk of recombining the 2 services in one location by either building or buying a larger church building. In our prophetic presbytery meetings, a word was given generically that other churches would be handing over the keys to their churches to the Christian Fellowship Center. And in March of 2018, that very event happened, when a small building in Richville, New York, handed over ownership of its church and land to the Richville and Gouverneur churches. The plan now is for the Richville and Gouverneur churches to build a larger church building addition onto the small building as soon as the sale of the 2 existing church locations can be arranged. In July of 2018, Pastor Mike Tomford moved his family from the Lisbon area to the Richville area to be closer to the church congregations which he pastors. Also around this time, Pastor Rick Sinclair and Darlene will be moving to Canton from their longtime family home location in Madrid. In October of 2018, Eric Trelease will be set in as ministry staff in the Potsdam location. Prior to that, Eric and his wife Jen and their family had been long-term missionaries in Turkey. Eric had attended the Christian Fellowship Center while getting his degree at Clarkson University. It is now July 2018, and 45 years have passed since Lonnie Langston held tent meetings in Brier Hill, New York, and incorporated a single church as the Christian Fellowship Centers of New York, envisioning multiple church centers spread across northern New York, and prophetically the Madrid church being the hub of a wheel with spokes going out with churches planted in the surrounding communities. It's exciting to think about what the next season in God will bring.